Good morning, good morning. Out here prepping for this hot dog sale. Sonoran dogs, got them chilies on deck. And I was sitting here, and as usual, I'm thinking of things, and things are going through my head, and my son, I was thinking about my son, and right now with per cap and things happening, fatalities sometimes happening during per cap, and it took my mind just to thinking, and a lot of stuff was coming up for me, man. And I was thinking about, if you're on the live, can you let me know if you can hear me, please? And I was thinking about addiction, like my children, and some of my children have had their fair share of their lives of using, and I want to say most of them, yeah, pretty much all of them, no matter what it is. And let me know if you can hear me, please. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'll try to talk loud. So what I was thinking was, with the per cap fear, and usually I always, I'm like, dang, sad because things happen, and you open your Facebook and it's like this happened or that happened, or even so and so passed away, and it's I call them per cap fatalities, because we get our per cap when we're in our addiction, and the first thing we do is run out and use. And some of us might have been sober for a while. I think about the people in recovery, that may have slipped, and if they haven't used for a while, their bodies, don't know how to handle that maybe hit that they're trying to take that they were so used to, if that makes sense. And so I was thinking a lot about that, and then I was thinking about, hey, Rachel, as a mom, like I remember this conversation actually came up last night, and I was at a fellowship, and like always being on my son about his addiction or his life choices, and just being like that mom, and how I was pushing him away. But there was a time in my life, just like not when he first got out of prison, that I felt like as a mom I was enabling him, because I would bring him, he would say, Mom, bring me a 12-pack home from the store, or Mom, let's have a couple of beers. And I would sit at home, and then so my journey started with change, and how am I contributing to the problem. And yes, Raquel, I'm glad you guys can hear me. Thank you. So I was thinking about, how am I contributing as a mom to the problem, and what do I want to show them versus what I want them to know. Like, I've done that my whole life. They've watched me in a lifetime of ruckus, my whole life of disaster. So I've already taught them that. So Teresa, what do you want to teach them now? And I started just really getting in my word, and so it came a time I stopped. I said 0 alcohol in my home, nothing. You want to get beer, you need to go do that somewhere else. Because I always knew, no matter if he drank a couple of beers, it took him to places that we didn't like. So I had to ask myself, how was I contributing to this? So I stopped, and I stopped being an enabler, because that was enabling him. And I started putting boundaries and saying, no, you know, if you choose to go off and do that, then that's your choice. But when it comes to, you know, me saying, yeah, here's the beer, yeah, go ahead, it's fine, it's nothing, no big deal. When I know it was, you know, for some people, it's not a big deal to have a few drinks for them. But for my son, it was a big deal. And so I'm like, you know, trying to think, sorry guys, I'm trying to move this. For myself, I'm trying to ask myself, what can I do to change that? And so when I asked myself, what can I do to change that? It started by not bringing alcohol or enabling him. And he started getting even deeper into his addictions of other stuff, of fentanyl. And you know, he would ask me, and then with fentanyl, you can never ask me to go pick fentanyl up for you, you know. But you know, with his use, he would always want that alcohol to I guess, midline him, or to put him in a, you know, calm space, and I wouldn't. And I was thinking about that last night. Had I been, even the slightest things of enabling people don't think about is money, getting your per cap. He's in jail right now, so getting this per cap and getting out, I'm not doing none of that, sir. I'm not doing that. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to enable him. If you have a choice and somebody does it, at least I know as a mom and somebody who loves you dearly, if something tragic happens, God forbid, I know I wouldn't have my hands in that. And that's how I pretty much live. I'm not going to do things for people or stuff that if a bad thing happens, even though I didn't have direct fault at it, because everybody has a choice, I don't want to feel like I had my hands on that. And so I was thinking of that, like enabling. We enable our children in so many ways, and that was what came to me this morning about addictions and per cap, and how are we enabling people to continue. Yes, our kids want to go off and live and do crazy things, but if we're still allowing them to do that while they're under the roof of your home, then you're enabling. And that's where I was with my son. As an adult, he couldn't, you know, if you were drunk, go pass out at your sister's or somebody's house before you came home. If you were under the influence, you just knew you couldn't, and because it was chaos, and it didn't always work out like that. It was always fighting, but Rachel said, preach, even though I get thrown in my face. Well, you used to do worse, but I continue to ask God. Hold on, I can't see. I continue to ask God to guide them and to help them with their life choices. Yes, that's all we can do, is that, Raquel. And I say that humbly because as a parent, it's probably one of the hardest decisions I had to do, or I shouldn't say decision, the boundary part of, you know what, if you choose to live that life, you can't do it here. You got to go somewhere else and do that, because this is our home. This is a safe place. We're teaching people, my daughter and my grandkids spend the night, that it's okay to be wild drunk and pass out, or just come home looking wild. And I don't want to teach them that. I taught them that my whole, like all these past 20 some years. So it was harsh when I had to hold that boundary with my son. And even with my 17-year-old daughter, you know, like you're underage, and if you know, we go over rules when you turn 18, there's still going to be rules, because you ain't going to come in here and do that. If you want to do that, let's look into getting you an apartment, or getting you into an apartment, or placing you somewhere. And that's exactly what happened with my son. He's like, I'll go. And he did. He went off, got his apartment. It was worse, man. But I have no control of what he does at that apartment. I prayed for him. I stopped yelling at him and telling him, like, you're messing up. I just said, son, you know, I would have like humbling conversations or loving conversations with him, instead of yelling and screaming at him anymore. Because at the end of the day, our kids are going to make choices, or even our family members, our adult family members, are going to make choices. But do you want to be part of that choice by enabling them? You had something to do with that. You allowed them to be like this in your home, or you took them beer, or you coddled their behaviors because you didn't set a boundary. And that's something that's very hard to do as a parent. And I don't know, I still have a hard time doing it, but I know that my God is helping me to get stronger. But yeah, it was a harsh thing under my roof, and people would, I remember taking him over to a treatment facility. They're like, how do you do that? You just kicked him out? I said, I didn't kick him out. He kicked himself out. I gave him a choice. You don't use drugs while you're in my home. You don't drink while you're in my home. I come home from work. I see different. Let's go, because it's either this, you're going to get kicked out on the street, or I can help you go and drive you over to a treatment facility to detox. You choose to stay, cool. If not, your detox, you could come home. And he took, you know, he had to take the detox because he didn't want to be in the streets. And so I'm confident that when I'm no longer on this earth, he's going to remember that, you know, if he's still around to, you know, and hopefully by then, Jesus' name, he's going to be better, you know, than what he is. And so I just wanted to jump on and share that, man. I was just sitting here doing my fixings, and I was thinking of that, you know, stop being an enabler. Not stop, but ask yourself, how are you enabling your children or even your family members? You know, whether they be your children or your adult children who live under your roof, and you're allowing them to do what they're doing, or because we live by generational trauma, well, I'd rather them be right here, you know, versus if I don't let them have those drinks in front of me, then it's going to push them away. Good morning, mija. I love you. It's okay. You got to do it in a loving way. I love each and every one of my family members who are out there in their darkness still, but I have to set boundaries, and I'm pretty sure they all know I love them. I love them, and my son, he knows that, you know. So maybe there's gonna be, I know I had a rock bottom in my addictions. There has to be rock bottoms, and when they hit that rock bottom, they're gonna know who to go to. And I think for us as Native people, especially here in the community, we've dealt with too many debts from our addictions. Why do we want to continue enabling it and sugarcoating it like it's okay? And I'm not saying turning your back on people, just loving your people and giving them advice and love, and come on, man, you're better than that, man. And I don't know, that's what came to me this morning. I don't come on here ever, guys, to offend anybody. If you're feeling this is you, don't feel, I don't know nobody's story, I don't know nobody's stuff. This was just something that came to me, and how I was enabling my son, and how I had to put a stop to it, and whatever he was doing out there had nothing to do with me. Nor could I say if my son overdosed, I had a part in it, and I had my hands in it because I would drive him anywhere to get it or bring him beer. No, ma'am. No, sir. I don't want no part. If anything tragic happens, I want to know that I tried to steer you the right way. I want to know that I tried to love you, and maybe you didn't even understand me at the moment, you know. And so, I don't know. It's just a thought I had this morning, guys, and I love you guys. And, you know, I just had to jump on here and share because it's real. You know, we so many of us on this page are parents or family members of loved ones who are in their addictions. And, you know, it's hard for us to, I was having a conversation yesterday about grandparents having their homes and like their kids are living in there and they're using, and that was one thing I said. That's why I told my son, not in my house. I have a duty here to teach my grandchildren to break these generational curses. So not in my house, you know, not in my house. And I'm not, and people always say, well, where are they going to go? If I kick them out, they're going to be homeless. They have a choice. Most people are grown and can be guided. Get them the help. It's their choice to take that help. And it's hard. It's hard. And I know addictions ain't a choice. Addictions is not, it's a choice, but it's a hard, it's something, it's a sickness. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're facing homelessness, you might find some people would rather be out there homeless because they're not ready to change. And you got to be okay with walking away with that and loving them from afar. I love so many of my family members from afar, but if you're sitting there enabling, I had to ask myself, like, well, how am I doing that? You know, like, not under my household. I don't want that. And I think for me, like that verse in the Bible, I have it written. I don't know what exact verse, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And I never had that in my concept of my vocabulary before. But I know with these boundaries and no, not in my house, you ain't going to be coming home drunk. I don't care how old you are. Not in my house, you're going to be doing this. But you know what? I'm not going to kick you out and push you out, but you have a choice. You have a choice to leave here and go figure your life out, or you have a choice to let me help you get help. And he took that help. He went, got detoxed, and came home. Then we had an honest conversation. The disrespect you showed me by knowing my rules, but yet you still came here and you still used in my home while I was at work. You know, so I had to set stronger boundaries, and it's hard, guys. It's hard, but ask yourself. I don't want my hand in the pot when something tragic happens with my family member or they pass away from cirrhosis of the liver. My children, no, I'm gonna fight tooth on my knees and pray for them, but also fight and try to get them the help they need. Instead of saying, yeah, I'll be right back, I'll go get you that 12-pack you wanted, which is going to lead them into calling the dope man to bring him more dope. Nope, not me, sir. So, to each their own. I don't know, that was heavy off of a conversation I had last night, and then I'm sitting here doing this, and it came back to me as I'm sitting here and listening to my worship music. I said, you know, let me get on live since I haven't got on my Monday reflection and just share with the world, you know. Per Cap always brings me, look at this, you guys. I love jalapenos like this. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to jump on and share that. I love you guys. God bless you guys. May the Lord protect Salt River and not allow any fatalities, any hardships during this Per Cap season or any season. You know, it's always ramps up during this time. But I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you later. I have a food sale to get ready for. Man, just kidding.